This is Dan Schreiber talking to you about technical leadership. Today we're going to talk about the situation where you're so overwhelmed with your job, all the responsibilities, all the work you have to do every day, that you feel like the only out you have is to quit. That you feel like it's time to walk away from your job. It's just too overwhelming. This is a situation I think that many technical leaders can relate to, especially as we get more senior. We start to have fewer folks looking out for, are we being asked to do too much? And more folks are coming to us and asking us to help them. The tasks that we get assigned, they don't just come from our manager anymore. And our manager probably isn't looking out for us in terms of whether or not we have just the right amount of work to get done any given day or any given week. We're more responsible for setting our own priorities, and we're more responsible for knowing how to set limits on when there's too much for us to get done. This is a situation that a friend of mine recently called me, and she asked me, when do I know when I need to just walk away? Because this job is so overwhelming, it feels like sometimes that's my only alternative. And I shared with her that I was in a similar situation. 5 years ago, I recall starting out managing not just one team, but eventually 5 teams, and eventually 10 teams. And the responsibilities, frankly, the number of different stakeholders that I felt like I was serving, it was so many that I felt like there was no way I could get through any given day and still feel like I was successful. I wasn't getting everything done. I had to come to a realization that that was my job. My job was going to be doing what I felt like the most important thing was, and there were going to be things that folks asked me to do that I wasn't going to get done. And that was a part of my role, was setting the right priorities, finding ways to get as much as I could get done, and then there were people who were going to be disappointed. This is something that as technical leaders, it's difficult for us if we've come up through the ranks of feeling like we're always setting good expectations and we're always able to accomplish everything that's been set in front of us. Now, what I recommended to my friend when she called me was, don't just think about it in the binary terms of, should I stay at this job and feel crushed, or should I quit my job and walk away? I suggested to her she needs to think about quitting part of her job. When I was in this position, what I found was I needed to set very rigorous priorities, the 1 or 2 things that I felt like I needed to be doing, or else I wasn't doing my job. And outside of that, I started looking for ways to quit parts of my job that I felt like were out there, and maybe the firm needed them to be done, but I didn't feel like I needed them to do them. So some tactics that I used here. First, I identified what those core 1 or 2 priorities were for me, whether it was managing my staff or one key product that needed to be launched. I couldn't do all 10 product teams, so I had to be very, very rigorous about what my prioritization was. Second, I started looking for others for whom the tasks that I had that weren't my top priorities would be good delegation opportunities, good growth opportunities for either folks on my team or my peers. This is, I think, oftentimes overlooked as an opportunity for growth, where you can look at something that is important to the firm, but not important for you to do. You can start to give those things away. Look for folks, and I guarantee you these folks exist in your organization, who are chomping at the bit for new responsibilities. Look at that as an opportunity where you can start to give away some of your responsibilities to someone on your team, one of your direct reports, or a peer who's looking to develop a new skill. Look at this as an opportunity to develop them and give them an opportunity to shine. And then finally, there are just probably some things that you can stop doing. I guarantee you that there's at least one thing you're doing every week that you're doing out of habit, that you're doing out of historical precedence, that if you stopped doing, no one would care. These are things where I think that we get into a comfortable habit, and you need to look hard at where you're spending your time and think, if I stop doing these 4 or 5 things, what happens? Now, this is going to be risk-taking, but the reality of stopping doing 4 or 5 things, if someone comes to you for 1 or 2 of those things and says, hey, I really rely on you doing these 1 or 2 things, then you've eliminated 3 things. And not only that, it gets you into a conversation with the person who does rely on those 1 or 2 things you stop doing, that they want something, and maybe there is a person who's better suited to help fill that gap for that person. When you're overwhelmed and it feels like there simply is so much work that you'd rather just walk away and quit, before taking a dramatic step and thinking that it's binary of either stay or go, think about quitting part of your job. Find opportunities to delegate or simply let things go and see how much you can scale back your job into a smaller, more impactful, and more achievable set of responsibilities where the time you invest yields the biggest impact, and in return, you get to regain some of your life back. You don't have to quit your entire job. You can just quit some of your job.